Call private and local order of the day number 1.
Christ's College Canterbury Amendment Bill, second reading.
Nikki Wagner.
I move that the Christ College Canterbury Amendment Bill be now read a second time. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the members of the Government Administration Select Committee and its chair, the Honourable David Parker, for dealing with this bill so quickly and efficiently. The Select Committee reported back to the House on the 10th of September and recommended that the bill with amendments proceed. This was good news for the Board of Governors of Christ College and for the school itself as it cleaned up after the September 4th earthquake. Christ College, established in 1855, is one of the oldest schools in New Zealand and has a cluster of beautiful heritage buildings in the centre of Christchurch. Luckily, they have only sustained minor to moderate damage. Like many heritage buildings in Christchurch, the damage has been mostly to chimneys and gable ends of buildings. The school has done substantial earthquake strengthening in the past, and the boarding houses, which have been strengthened to 67% of the building code, were undamaged. Several buildings will need further earthquake strengthening work, but that had already been planned, and specialist workmen are now busy restoring some of the most intricate stone and slate work. The school is fully insured and will continue repairs until all the buildings are restored. The boys, although evacuated after the earthquake, have returned to school and it is now functioning as normally as possible. The Christ College Canterbury Amendment Bill seeks to amend the Christ College Canterbury 1910 Act to remove difficulties in administrating trust funds invested in the college. Over the past 155 years, the college has received numerous bequests from various donors. The terms of some of these require that the annual income generated by the funds be applied to specific purposes. For example, the provisions of prizes for certain subjects or sports, or the provisions of scholarships for pupils who meet those criteria. Accordingly, the school holds the funds on trust to be applied for these specified purposes. However, over the years, the stated objects of a number of the trusts have become largely redundant. Also, some of the trusts receive income that is either in excess of or insufficient for their needs. In its submission to the Select Committee, the Board of Governors advised that of the 148 mostly small trusts that the Board administers, there are approximately 28 which could not be administered because of changed circumstances. In the past, when there had been problems of implementation had occurred, the Board had engaged directly with the original donors to agree to a variation of purpose. In many cases, variations had been agreed, but nowadays many of the original donors have already passed away, and even some of the agreed variations are in need of amendment. Trustees can apply to the High Court under the Charitable Trusts Act 1957 to approve a new trust purpose in certain circumstances, which must be as close as possible to the original one. The process involves submitting a trust variation scheme to the Attorney General, who will report on the scheme to the court, and there is also a public notification and objection process. However, the college would need to make a separate application to the High Court for each trust variation, and the Board estimates that it would cost approximately $50,000 each time. This is not practical when you consider that many trusts are small. For example, the Balfour Prize, established in 1880, of $100 for a gold medal to be awarded to the boy passing the best examination in divinity in the 4 Gospels and the Acts of the Apostles in Greek. Other examples of bequests with redundant purposes include the 1919 gift to the college to provide bursaries for sons of soldiers. They include sons of those who had fallen or suffered as part of the New Zealand Expeditionary Forces and sons of members of various forces of the British Empire, all who had served in the Great War. Another estate was left in trust to educate orphans from named Christchurch orphanages, which no longer exist. Funds can now no longer be distributed from these trusts and are just accumulating to the benefit of no one. The Select Committee found that the Amendment Bill was generally consistent with the law related to charitable trusts and reported that the issues as described in the preamble were proved to their satisfaction. Similar problems have been identified by other organisations and have been addressed in legislation such as the Methodist Church of New Zealand's Trust Bill 2009, which was recently passed in this House. The Select Committee suggested that this bill use the wording from the Charitable Trusts Act 1957, which has an established body of case law supporting it. They recommended that Clause 5, which proposed a new subsection to vary the proposed purposes of charitable trusts in certain circumstances, to be rewritten. They also suggested inserting a new subclause 4A to Clause 5, which would allow the governing body to use for another purpose excess income from trusts that generate more than necessary for the donated purposes. This is consistent with the Charitable Trusts Act. Finally, the Select Committee was not comfortable with the term "for the benefit of the college," in case the functions of the college changed over time and then trust funds could perhaps be applied to non-charitable purposes. It therefore recommended inserting in subsection 3, clause 5, the requirement that trust funds be used for charitable purposes, and in a new subsection 4B to clause 5, the requirement that any new purpose be as close as reasonably possible to the purpose for which the property was given. The Board of Governors have always made it clear that the college's wishes to, and as a trustee must, ensure that to the fullest extent possible the objects of the trust continue to be met, and that the Board's approach to any variation of purpose would be as sympathetic to and consistent with the original purpose as possible. It has also assured the Select Committee that before exercising this power to vary the original purpose, it will complete a detailed review of the Trust to ensure that the original purposes cannot continue to be met fully. Again, I would like to thank the Select Committee for its thorough and thoughtful work. The bill, as amended, will solve the problems of dealing with numerous small trusts administered by the College. It contains enough checks and balances to protect those trusts, and the Attorney-General still maintains his role as protector of charities. He will still have general oversight and will be able to inquire into the trusts if he believes that the trustees at any stage overstep their powers. The Select Committee has done an excellent job reshaping this bill. It is a good piece of legislation and I commend it to the House.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Brendan.